What's going on, guys? It's No Shoes, and we're back with another one. And today we're going to be reacting to You Can't Be Neutral on a Moving Train from Vinnie Paz. This was suggested by Kufuku Ice, so thank you, Kufuku, for the suggestion. Keep them coming in the comments down below, guys. I really do appreciate them. But without any further ado, let's get right into this. Let's see what Vinnie has to say. Let's see what You Can't Be Moving on a Neutral Train is all about. Oh, you can't be neutral on a moving train. Let's get it.
Governments lie all the time. Oh, not just the American government. It's just in the nature of governments. Well, they have to lie. And since they don't represent the people, and so since they act against the interests of the people, the only way they can hold power is if they lie to the people.
Facts. That's facts right there, bro. We seeing it happen all over the world every single day. Governments lying and people just, just following along.
Deception. I am cruel to myself. Things will never be the same.
Yo, I love the emotion and that real high-pitched melody we got here. I like the feel of this so far.
Never be the same.
If they told people the truth, they wouldn't last very long.
I will hold my silence like a weapon in my hand. If I used it.
Yo, beautiful drop. This beat, amazing. Love the thickness and the power that it came in with. That vocal starting to come through a little bit stronger, peeking out over the top of this beat. This is awesome.
If I used it, I would murder myself. You could never understand.
Columbus came ashore greeted with nothing but niceness, sailing west in attempt to find golden spices. Dominated by the popes and frenzy for ISIS. The Catholic Church expelled Jews and claimed it was righteous. The first man.
Wow, the Catholic Church expelled Jews and claimed it was righteous. That's a mouthful right there. Okay, we really talking on this track. I wasn't sure what to expect, but we about to have 6 more minutes of this. We a minute in of some real bars right now. I love the coarseness of his voice and the way it lines up with the smoothness of that intro vocal. Let's keep this moving.
By the popes and frenzy for ISIS. The Catholic Church expelled Jews and claimed it was righteous. The first man to see land would get a reward and get a yearly pension for life, clearly from God. A young sailor saw land, said we isn't far. Columbus lied, said he saw it the evening before. They touched ground.
Oh shit. Okay, so we see Columbus lying to get the what is it? To get that like salary or the pension for the rest of his life for discovering the land, something along those lines.
Columbus lied, said he saw it the evening before. They touched ground, they were greeted by the Arawak. Columbus had them locked up as prisoners in an hour flat. He wanted to find a source of gold, and that was that. And when they thought that wasn't fair, then he stabbed they back. When there was no
facts, man. What's funny is I was actually taking a history class recently. I just dropped it yesterday to focus on some other stuff, but either way, it was all about this early history of America, and it's funny to see that on a track, but it's facts, man. They betrayed the Native Americans, you know, tried to get their gold, and when they wouldn't give them their gold, they decided to give them diseases and to, you know, imprison them and just abuse them. It's horrible.
Was that, and when they thought that wasn't fair, then he stabbed they back. When there was no more gold, he took slaves instead and left 250,000 Indians in Haiti dead. The man died in mines.
Yeah, that's facts right there, bruh. The amount of just death and destruction that came from the Europeans just looking for political and economic gain by, discovering a passage to India that was what was it? That was east instead of west and all that craziness.
More than a million Indians in Haiti dead. The men died in mines, the women died at work. The children died from lack of milk and they died in the dirt. They were just taking advantage of a passive people. They were just being the savages of massive evil. That's the church word.
Passive people, massive evil. Nice rhyme there.
Passive people, they were just being the savages of massive evil. That's the church work, that's the path of massive ego. That's the blood of Abraham being stabbed by the steeple. It's 16.
Oh, the blood of Abraham being stabbed by the steeple, bruh. Hard bars. His voice, I'm not sure if this is the right person I'm thinking of, but it gives me a Joel Ortiz type vibe. Just that gruffness and power behind it, that like little growl inside of his voice.
Hand being stabbed by the steeple. It's 16, 19, they were patiently waiting for a ship to carry slaves that was changing the nation. The white man was a cannibal praying to Satan. Hatred, contempt, or pity, or patronization. That's the cornerstone, everything racism based in. The African had a more advanced civilization. Black was slave, master was white, rationalization. 50 million dead, that's Western civilization. At first,
damn, bruh, that was harsh, man. I will say, there were a lot of slaves that were brought from Africa that were actually bought as prisoners of war and slaves from Africa. But there was also just the horror of people just being imprisoned unbeknownst to themselves. A lot of the time people were taken in as slaves after the end of a war, and they were taken as like the spoils of war, which it's all horrible, man. You look back at history, it's just a trash show of people treating other people like property, and it's really just disgusting when you look back at it and see how we treat each other. But that was history, man. We were much less evolved at that time, and people were doing that shit all over the world.
Satan, hatred, contempt, or pity, or patronization. That's the cornerstone, everything racism based in. The African had a more advanced civilization. Black was slave, master was white, rationalization. 50 million dead, that's Western civilization. At first they appeared in the north, and they were helpless in the face of superior force. And all of them were chained together, they really was lost. Racism isn't natural, it's merely divorce. Before the slave trade, black was...
Yo, I love the beat change here, man. It changed a little bit ago, but the way the tone is changing, we're getting this rise in the energy right now. We're building up to some kind of climax. We're moving towards that, the point that this is all about. But I love the energy.
Racism isn't natural, it's merely divorce. Before the slave trade, black was considered distasteful. By the Oxford Dictionary, I found it disgraceful. It's not a natural tendency to be bitter and hateful. It's a natural enemy of the critical staple. Slave.
That's an interesting thing to throw in the Oxford Dictionary part of, saying like black was considered distasteful, because it makes you wonder, like, are we talking about like a definition where, people are describing something as the Black Plague, or, using the word in a sense to describe something bad, but it's still not associated with people, but then you get that association with the color. It's a very interesting dual relationship that word has with race, and then just outside of that with unrelated topics. But how do those come together? How do those, I can't think of the word. We'll keep it going.
It's a natural enemy of the critical staple. Slavery grew as the plantation system grew. The reason for that's kinda easily traceable. Society of helpless dependence was capable of saying fuck a slave master, you in slavery too. 7 slaves were put to death for murdering master. Fear of slave revolt had them developing faster. You a Cataline killer, an elegant bastard. I would burn the white man while smelling.
Yo, again, great beat change. Love the feel of this. The way he's just powering through across the top really keeps the energy just feeling like we're on a train with no brakes, just pushing. I love it.
I would burn the white man while smelling the ashes. From time to time, white man was part of the resistance. White indentured servants wanted no part of the system. King Philip's War showed that if people would listen, that they could maybe break the complex chain of oppression. Tyranny is tyranny, but that's a concession.
Hold up, let's bring that back a little bit.
Part of the resistance. White indentured servants wanted no part of the system. King Philip's War showed that if people would listen, that they could maybe break the complex chain of oppression. Tyranny is...
Okay, when he's talking about King told the people if they would listen, if they would help win the war, he might be referring to the British right there when they offered a bunch of slaves in America the possibility of freedom if they would escape their masters and then go serve Britain in the war against the colonies at that time. That would be my guess as to his reference there.
Maybe break the complex chain of oppression. Tyranny is tyranny, but that's a concession. But the women, they was treated like that of possessions. Black women had it work cause they was abused. That's the white justification of Aryan blues. The next move was to dominate the Mexicans. James Polk dominated them like they was next to kin. He sent Colonel Cross to lot of them and let them in. 11 days later, his skull was crushed, so message sent. We take nothing by call.
Man, they started... You know, I mean, if we're talking timeline-wise, people went down to Mexico and messed it way up before Columbus ever even set foot in America. But we didn't, you know, the colonists certainly didn't help when they got here, but Mexico was a shadow of itself by the time, you know, like, you know, the colonies and all, you know, all the slave trade from Africa and all that stuff had happened. It was a shadow of itself from what it was before when the, from what it was before the Spanish got there.
Dominated them like they was next to kin. He sent Colonel Cross to lot of them and let them in. 11 days later, his skull was crushed, so message sent. We take nothing by conquest, that was the mantra. The military wasn't human, they were just monsters. Henry David Thoreau refused to pay his taxes. Denounced the Mexican War and got locked in shackles. The 20th century opened, anger re-emerged.
Yo, that does just kind of parallel the not paying your taxes and getting sent to prison. Isn't it kind of crazy that we're just born into a system where we're just turned into a consumer so that way we can buy stuff, be taxed on that, so then we can go start working, be taxed on that money before we go buy stuff with it to be taxed again? Like, it's absolutely ridiculous when you look at the way our society's run. We're just a bunch of consumers pumping out more consumers, just feeding the system like logs into the fire.
War and got locked in shackles. The 20th century opened, anger re-emerged. Reality of ordinary life was being heard. Anarchists and feminists came from factory work. Communism, socialism seemed to be rebirth. War is the health of the state is what Bourne said. And if you was born around that time, you was born dead. The espionage act had people confused, cause it was double talking, they didn't know how it be used.
Interesting. The Espionage Act had people confused. Let me know in the comments down below. When was that put into place? At this point, it feels like we're kind of jumping a little bit further forward into history. We really started way back, like when at least North America was really first being discovered. And now I'm having a little bit trouble keeping my eye on the timeline here. Like where did we come from? How did we progress to this age at this point?
Communism, socialism seemed to be rebirth. War is the health of the state is what Bourne said. And if you was born around that time, you was born dead. The Espionage Act had people confused, cause it was double talking, they didn't know how it be used. Supposedly it was an act against spying. Du Bois noted that was bullshit and they was lying. Charles Schenck was arrested in Philadelphia for printing and distributing leaflets cause they was helping you.
Interesting. Who was? Did you say Charles Dent?
Espionage Act had people confused, cause it was double talking, they didn't know how it be used. Supposedly it was an act against spying. Du Bois noted that was bullshit and they was lying. Charles Schenck was arrested in Philadelphia for printing and distributing leaflets cause they was helping you. He was indicted, tried and then found guilty, and spent 6 months in jail. Don't that sound silly? Had his freedom taken away.
That is crazy that he was put in jail just for printing stuff out. I'd love to hear what the actual story is behind that because right now we're getting a very stylized, artful version of the story. But let's keep it going.
Was indicted, tried, and then found guilty, and spent 6 months in jail. Don't that sound silly? Had his freedom taken away by his own nation. But there's a lesson: do not submit to intimidation.
I mean, most people in the world today only have their freedom taken away by their own nation. In fact, most nations, if you commit a crime there, will send you back home so that way your home can deal with what you did. If you're lucky, what you did in the other country isn't that bad back where you came from. But that's pretty much the only way it really happens, unless we talking about like large scale war, and then we can get into all that and how terrible that destruction is, and the economic machine that war is supposed to be, and just all that nastiness.
Own nation, but there's a lesson: do not submit to intimidation. The act still exists today, and the shit is real. Supposedly Kennedy tried to have that shit appealed. Eugene Debs did 10 years for no purpose. He obstructed the recruiting and enlistment service. The post office started taking.
I wonder what that act that oh wait, was it the Espionage Act that Kennedy tried to repeal? Let me know in the comments. I'm very intrigued. We're moving through history at kind of an odd pace. We started way back, and now we've jumped all the way forward to Kennedy. It feels like we kind of just left the middle out. But, let's keep it going. I love the bars. I love the vibe of it. This is the energy is just amazing.
Enlistment service. The post office started taking mail privileges of magazines who printed anti-war sentiments. A socialist named Fairchild had it right. He said that they can shoot me, but they can't make me fight. They sentenced him to a year in jail, and that was reckless. 65,000 men, conscientious objectors.
Again, nice beat change, helping us feel that emotion through the track, allowing Vinnie to stay stable in his flow. And seeing the beat change around him is really interesting because it kind of shows that his narrative isn't changing, but his surroundings are. That's a cool touch.
And that was reckless. 65,000 men, conscientious objectors. They were sent to army bases to work there. They were treated sadistically and were hurt there. They were strangled with a hemp rope till they collapsed. And officers punched their stomach and their lower back. A garden hose was placed on their face with a nozzle about 6 inches from them so they couldn't swallow. The war ended.
Oh my God. I mean, we're just talking about the horrible things we have all done to each other as humans in the course of history. And when you start to unpack all of it, it's horrifying. It's like a horror movie. Seeing how just uncivilized and barbaric we were towards each other. And, even still now, we just learn to be more advanced. We just learn to be, more secretive and to kind of hide, these things under a disguise. It's very interesting.
From them so they couldn't swallow. The war ended in 1918. The government was just trying to wipe the slate clean. Hemingway wrote Farewell to Arms. Dalton Trumbo wrote Johnny Got His Gun. The war was over, but they didn't learn their lesson. Twin tactics of control, reform and repression. The patriotic fervor of war had been invoked. That's why the country that you live in is a fucking joke. You cannot be neutral on the move.
Damn, really just came for the whole country, man. Yeah, I got nothing to add to that, bro. He's said it all right there. It's a joke. I look around and it's a joke, man. We have people running our country that are 80 years old. I love my granddad, right? I don't want him to run the country, though. Neither do I want any of these guys. And it's just ridiculous looking around at what's getting passed right under our noses, what they be doing, what they're focusing on when there's all these other problems that actually matter. we're just supplying this chain. We were all born into this system, and now it's just our job to keep it going by feeding into it and feeding into it. And it's, it's disgusting to look at, honestly.
That's why the country that you live in is a fucking joke. You cannot be neutral on a moving train. This is a story about the lies that your teacher told you. This is real, actual, factual. No lies in the whole record. If you don't believe me, look it up. I'm trying to share the shit that I learned with y'all.
That's a very bold claim, no lies on the whole record. I believe he didn't lie. But what I do believe is that this is an artful retelling of true events, which is not the same as complete truth. Because we have facts and we have the truth, and the truth and facts are not necessarily the same thing. It's based on perspective of what you believe to be true when you're saying it. Because if you believe it, then it's the truth. If you don't believe it, then it's a lie. But that being said, it seemed like pretty much everything that I at least had knowledge of was pretty accurate.
Let me look it up. I'm trying to share the shit that I learned with y'all. Do the knowledge. Your government does not care about you. The people in power do not care about you. Understand that. Power to the people.
Absolutely, man. I mean, that's facts right there. We just a social security number with a tax ID, bruh. Just waiting to start harvesting them dollars off you when you turn 18 or whenever you start working, start paying them taxes. That's all we are. We're just feeding the system we were born into.
War is like a fix. You know, you get high on war. We won. And then you're down on the ground again. And you need another fix. You need another war. Why do you think we've had war after war after war after war? Every war they say this is the end. This is the last war. In World War I, they said this is the war to end all wars. And then not long after.
I like these samples, having it kind of bookend both sides of the track. And then part that I was hoping would come back is it sounds like we're gonna get the vocal from the beginning to take us out to the end here.
This is the end. This is the last war. In World War I, they said this is the war to end all wars. And then not long after that was World War II. And then soon the United States was waging war in Korea and then in Vietnam. If you study history, what you learn is that wars are always accompanied by.
And then having the sample overlapping with the voice at the end here. This is a great track, man. I mean, amazing flow all the way through. Just 7 minutes of hard bars and thought-provoking content. And, talking about history, talking about where all of this started from and where we've come to in closer to present years. Just all around, this is a great track. I love this.
Lives. Wars are always accompanied by deception.
All right, guys. Well, that was You Can't Be Neutral on a Moving Train from Vinnie Paz. That was suggested by Kufuku Ice, so thank you, Kufuku, for the suggestion. Keep them coming in the comments down below, guys. I really do appreciate them. If you all want to see more videos like this, make sure you guys hit like, hit subscribe, and hit that bell. That way I know you're enjoying it. Much love to everybody in the No Shoes Gang, and I will see you all next time.